Story 1. I still don't know why we kept that old landline. Everyone else had ditched theirs years ago, but Mark said it felt safe, like a backup if the cell towers ever went down. I thought it was sweet, the way he worried about little things like that. Now I wish we'd ripped it out of the wall the day we moved in. It was a rainy Tuesday evening in December, the kind where the city lights blur through the windows of our high-rise apartment overlooking Central Park. Mark and I were on the couch, legs tangled under a blanket, eating takeout sesame chicken straight from the cartons. The TV murmured in the background. Everything felt normal, peaceful even. Then the landline rang. We both froze. Nobody ever called that number. Not our parents, not friends, not even telemarketers. They'd all given up long ago. I laughed nervously and reached for it, mostly because I didn't want the sharp ring to ruin our quiet night. Hello? At first there was just static, like wind rushing through a tunnel. Then a voice, low, faint, almost swallowed by the noise, whispered my full name. Sarah Elizabeth Carter, followed by our exact address, floor and apartment number included. My stomach dropped. I told myself it was a wrong number or some creepy prank. I hung up fast and tried to smile at Mark. Weird, right? He shrugged, but I could see the unease in his eyes. We went back to the food. An hour later, it rang again. This time I let it ring 4 times before picking up. Same static, same voice, but clearer. You fought last Thursday, it said. About money. Mark raised his voice. You cried in the shower after. I felt the blood leave my face. We had fought, exactly like that. Mark hadn't even known I cried. I slammed the phone down and told him what it said. He tried to stay calm, said maybe someone was hacking our phones or listening through smart speakers. We turned everything off, just in case. Another hour. Another ring. The voice listed what Mark had worn to work that morning, his navy tie with the tiny red dots. Then it laughed, soft and wet, like it had phlegm in its throat. We unplugged the landline, pulled the cord clean out of the wall. Relief lasted maybe 10 minutes. Then both our cell phones started ringing at once. Unknown numbers. Same voice. Louder now, laughing harder. Mark grabbed a kitchen knife. I paced, heart hammering. Outside, the rain hammered the windows. Somewhere down the hall, an elevator dinged. That's when we heard the scratching. It came from the front door, slow, deliberate, like fingernails dragging down the wood. I crept to the peephole and looked out. The hallway was empty, just dim lights and shadows. The landline, unplugged, dead on the floor, rang again. I screamed. Mark yanked me away from the door. We backed toward the bedroom, dragging furniture to barricade ourselves inside. Dresser against the door. Bed pushed behind it. We sat on the floor, holding each other, listening to the rain and our own breathing. Minutes passed. Nothing. No scratching. No ringing. Then my cell phone buzzed on the nightstand. I shouldn't have looked. The screen showed a new voicemail. I played it on speaker. The voice was calm now, almost kind. Sarah, it whispered. I'm already inside. The closet door creaked. It opened an inch at first, then wider, slow enough to make my skin crawl. A shape unfolded from the darkness inside. Tall, thin, covered in dust and cobwebs. The man's eyes were wide and shining, like he hadn't slept in weeks. In his hand was a long kitchen knife, the same model we kept in our block downstairs. He stepped out barefoot, smiling like he belonged here. This is my home, he said in that same voice from the phone. You stole it. Mark lunged first. They crashed into the dresser, knocking it aside. I grabbed the bedside lamp and swung it hard. The man howled when it shattered against his shoulder, but he kept coming. The knife caught Mark across the ribs. Blood soaked his shirt instantly. I screamed and hit the man again and again until he dropped. We tied him with bed sheets while Mark pressed a towel to his wound. Police came fast, lights flashing red and blue through the rain-streaked windows. Later, they told us who he was. The previous tenant. evicted months ago after he stopped paying rent. He'd been living in the building's vents and crawl spaces ever since, listening, watching. During a maintenance visit last month, he'd slipped inside and planted tiny microphones everywhere. Behind outlets, under furniture. Every fight, every private moment he recorded. Then he mixed our own voices into his calls, making it sound like he knew everything. Mark survived, barely. We moved out the next week, threw away every phone we owned. But sometimes, late at night, wherever I am, I still hear it. That faint static. My name whispered through the dark. And I never ever answer. Story 2. I've always hated old phones. Something about the way they ring. Sharp, demanding, like they know you'll pick up. But in our townhouse in downtown Chicago, we kept the landline because my wife Elena said it made the place feel like a real home. I thought she was being sentimental. Now I know better. It was late October, the kind of night where the wind screams around the corners of the buildings and rattles the windows like it wants in. Elena and I were in the living room. The girls, Sophia, 16, and little Lucia, 14, already upstairs doing homework. We'd just finished dinner, and the house felt warm and safe. Then the phone rang. I picked it up without thinking. Hello? A shaky old woman's voice answered, thin as paper. Carlos Ramirez? She said my full name like she'd known me forever. This is your great Aunt Rosa, from your mother's side. Listen to me. The house you live in, it's cursed, tied to the land, the people before you. They all suffered. I laughed quietly, trying not to wake the girls. Probably some scam. Lady, I think you have the wrong number. No, she whispered, voice trembling harder. Shadows move when no one is there. Whispers come from inside the walls. It starts with a phone call, always. I hung up, told Elena it was nothing. We turned off the lights and went to bed. An hour later, it rang again. This time, the woman spoke faster. In 1987, a man hanged himself in your basement. In 2003, a woman vanished from the attic. They all heard my warning and ignored it. I told her to stop calling and slammed the phone down. But the third call came at midnight. Then 1 a.m., each time she told another story, gruesome, specific. A child who clawed her own eyes out. A father who walked into Lake Michigan and never came back. All of them living at our address. All of them starting with a call from Aunt Rosa. We unplugged the phone, tried to sleep. That's when the light started flickering, not like a bad bulb, on and off fast like breathing. Doors upstairs slammed shut one after another. Sophia screamed first, then Lucia. They ran into our room crying, saying they dreamed they were buried alive, dirt filling their mouths. I held them while Elena checked the house. Everything was locked. No one inside but us. At dawn, Elena went to the bathroom and gasped. Every mirror had symbols scratched into the glass, circles inside circles, strange letters I didn't recognize. The old woman had described them exactly. Look for the marks. They appear when it chooses you. We were scared now. Really scared. I looked up the number on my cell. It traced to an old payphone in Graceland Cemetery 3 blocks away. Elena wanted to leave, but I said we had to know. We had to stop it. So we drove there together, all 4 of us, in the gray morning light. The payphone stood alone under a dead tree, receiver dangling. No one around. The phone rang while we stared at it. Lucia answered before I could stop her. Her face went blank, eyes wide. She spoke in that same quivering old voice. Too late. I'm already here. We rushed home. The moment we stepped inside, everything changed. Furniture slid across the floor by itself. Pictures flew off walls. Blood, dark and thick, oozed from the corners of the ceiling and ran down like tears. The girls screamed as chairs lifted and spun in the air. Books hurled themselves at us. Lucia stood in the middle of it all, smiling with that old woman's smile. Her voice wasn't hers anymore. This land remembers, she said. It takes one to break the chain. I knew what she meant. I told Elena to take Sophia and run, lock themselves in the car. I stayed with Lucia, holding her as the house shook around us. The spirit wanted blood for blood, a life to end the curse. I kissed my youngest daughter's forehead, whispered I loved her, and pressed a kitchen knife to my chest. The screaming stopped the second I fell. When the police came, they found me dead. The blood was gone, the furniture back in place, mirrors clean. Lucia was herself again, crying over my body. Elena and Sophia, too, broke into speak. We buried me before Thanksgiving. They sold the house and moved away. But Elena told me later, before I died, in those last moments, that sometimes, late at night, the new owners get a call. An old woman warning about a curse. And sometimes, Lucia wakes up, speaking in that voice again. Just for a second, just long enough to say thank you. Story 3. I never used to fear phone calls. Growing up, the ring always meant good news. Friends inviting me out, mom checking in, or Alex planning a surprise date. But one call changed everything. Sometimes, in the quiet of night, I still hear it. That cheerful voice asking if the door is unlocked. And I wonder if I'd just let it ring. Would we still have a home? Would we still have each other? It was a blazing August afternoon in Los Angeles, the kind where the air shimmers above the streets and the Hollywood sign looks close enough to touch from our loft window. Alex was at the office, and I was working from home, laptop open, fan blowing hot air around. The landline rang, another thing we kept for no real reason. I almost ignored it, but the caller ID said delivery services, and Alex had mentioned a possible bonus gift from work. Hello? A friendly man's voice answered. Hi, ma'am. This is Mike from Quick Drop Courier. We have a surprise package for Mia and Alex Thompson at this address. Just need to confirm before we head up. I smiled, flattered that Alex's company would do something sweet. Yes, that's us. 20th floor, right? Perfect, he said, sounding pleased. Is anyone home right now? And quick question, is the front door unlocked? Sometimes the lobby buzzer acts up, and we like to save time. A tiny alarm went off in my head. No, it's locked. You'll have to buzz. I hung up fast, heart beating a little quicker. Something felt off. I texted Alex. Weird delivery call. Guy asked if door was unlocked. He replied instantly, on my way home. Lock everything. Call building security. I double-checked the deadbolt and balcony slider just as someone knocked. 3 sharp raps. Through the peephole, I saw a man in a brown uniform holding a medium-sized box, cap pulled low. Quick drop delivery, he called cheerfully. Alex arrived 10 minutes later, breathless from running up the stairs. We opened the door on the chain first. The delivery guy smiled, handed over the box, and left without another word. Inside, the box was light, too light. We cut it open together, empty, except for a single white card, in neat black ink, "You shouldn't answer unknown calls." Before we could react, the balcony door exploded inward. 3 men in masks burst in, fast and silent. One grabbed Alex from behind, another pinned me to the floor. The delivery guy stepped back inside, pulling off his cap. He looked straight at me and grinned. Hello, little sister. My stomach dropped. The face, older, harder, scarred, was one I hadn't seen since I was 12. Ethan, my brother, who'd vanished after our parents died, presumed drowned in a boating accident. The brother who'd been cut out of the will because of his addictions. The one I'd grieved for years. You're dead, I whispered. Not quite, he said, voice exactly like the one on the phone. Turns out dying is expensive, but stealing identities? That pays. They tied us to dining chairs with zip ties, gagged us with duct tape. His crew, professionals, went straight for laptops, phones, filing cabinets. They knew where everything was, passwords taped under drawers, the safe combination I'd whispered to Alex last month. That call hadn't just confirmed the address, it had tested how much I'd reveal. Ethan crouched in front of me. Mom and Dad left everything to you. The house sold, college paid, wedding funded. I got nothing, so I'm taking it back, one account at a time. They drained our banks while we watched. Credit cards maxed, retirement raided, even the honeymoon savings. Then, Ethan poured gasoline over our couch, our photos, our bed. The smell burned my eyes. He lit a match, dropped it, and the flames raced up the curtains like they were starving. He kissed my forehead through the gag. Enjoy the family reunion. They left through the balcony, rappelling down like they'd practiced. The fire spread fast. Smoke choked us. Alex rocked his chair until it tipped, crawling to me with bound hands. He rubbed his zip tie against the corner of the kitchen island until it snapped, then freed me. We stumbled through flames, skin blistering, lungs screaming. I kicked out a window on the lower floor where firefighters were already climbing ladders. We survived. Barely. Second-degree burns, smoke damage, everything gone. Insurance called it arson. Police called Ethan a ghost. No records, no trace. We moved to a tiny apartment across town. No landline, phones on silent. But every unknown number that lights up my screen feels like him watching. Some nights I wake up smelling smoke. Alex checks the locks 10 times before bed, and sometimes, when the city is quiet, my phone buzzes with a blocked call. I never answer. But the voicemail is always the same. That cheerful voice saying, "Is the door unlocked?" Story 4. We never turned off our smart home system at night. Lisa said it made life easier. Lights on timers, doors locking automatically, even the kids' toys syncing to bedtime stories. I loved how connected everything felt in our San Francisco high-rise. But one call showed me the dark side of all those wires and signals. Now, I smash every device I see, because sometimes the real monsters aren't under the bed. They're inside the walls, waiting for you to pick up. It was a Friday family movie night in our suburban tower, the city twinkling below like a sea of stars. Lisa and I snuggled on the couch with the kids, Tommy, 8, Mia, 6, and little Ben, 4, all piled under blankets with popcorn. The movie was some animated adventure, laughter filling the room. Then the landline rang. We kept it for emergencies, though it rarely buzzed. I answered casually. "Hello?" A breathless voice rushed out like the guy was running. "You've been selected for a game. Hang up and it spreads to everyone you know." I chuckled. Sounded like one of those viral pranks going around TikTok. "What kind of game?" "Simple," he said, panting less now. "Share a secret, something no one knows, or face the consequences." I rolled my eyes and hung up. Told Lisa it was junk. We went back to the movie. Minutes later, the lights stuttered. Not a flicker, a full strobe, like a club. The speakers blasted screams, distorted and echoing. The kids jumped, spilling popcorn. Ben started crying. "What the hell?" I muttered, grabbing the remote. But the TV froze on a warped image of our family photo, faces melting like wax. My phone rang, same voice. "Told you. I'm in now, through the call, controlling everything." Lisa's eyes widened. "Greg, what did you do?" I tried rebooting the router. Nothing. The smart locks clicked, doors sealing us in. Security cameras fed to the TV, ghostly figures in our hallways, pale and shambling. But wait, they looked like us. Me with hollow eyes, Lisa dragging chains, the kids twisted into monsters doing awful things, deep fakes. Had to be, but so real the kids screamed bloody murder. Then the toys woke up. Ben's teddy bear, connected to the app, growled low, "Share the secret, Daddy." Mia's doll whispered threats, eyes glowing red. Tommy's robot car zoomed at our feet, speakers hissing, or we spread. Panic hit. Lisa hugged the kids while I traced the call on my laptop. Signal bounced everywhere, but I pinpointed an IP, our neighbor's unit downstairs. "We have to check," I said. Lisa nodded, pale. We pried the door open with a crowbar. The smart lock fought back and snuck down the hall, leaving the kids locked in the bathroom for safety. The neighbor's door was ajar. Inside, empty, dust sheets over furniture. But in the corner, a setup like ours, monitors mirroring our home, cameras everywhere, wires snaking into vents. A figure stepped from the shadows. Young woman, 20s, wild hair, our old nanny, fired last year for stealing meds. "You shouldn't have let me go," she sneered, voice matching the caller. "I've been watching, hacking your system bit by bit. That call? It let me in fully." She hit a key. Back home, vents hissed. Gas? The app showed air quality dropping, toxins pumping in. "Why?" Lisa gasped. "Revenge," she said. "You ruined my life. Now share your secrets online, or the kids choke." I lunged, but she had a taser, zapped me down, forced me to log in, post everything. My affair years ago, Lisa's hidden debt, family shame. Videos went viral instantly, twisted with those deepfakes. She laughed as alerts blew up. Friends texting horror, jobs calling. Then she locked us out, gas thickening. Lisa smashed a window. Sirens wailed. Neighbors must have heard. Police burst in, arresting her. We coughed out the gas, kids safe but traumatized. But the damage stuck. Videos leaked everywhere. We became pariahs. Jobs lost, friends gone, kids bullied out of school. Moved to a cabin, no tech, no phones. Yet sometimes an old tablet glitches on. A breathless voice whispers, "Ready for round 2?" I smash it every time. But the game spreads, it always does. Story 5. I've always believed debts come back to bite you, but I never thought they'd speak in a voice like silk sliding over broken glass. That night in Boston, when the fog pressed against our windows like it wanted inside, the phone rang once. I picked up, and everything we built started bleeding. We lived in a renovated brownstone in the old historic district, the kind of place with creaky floors and brick walls that swallowed sound. Jordan and I had poured every penny of my grandmother's inheritance into fixing it up. It felt safe, tucked away in those narrow, shadowy alleys where gas lamps still flicker at night. It was past midnight, fog so thick you couldn't see the street. Jordan was already asleep upstairs. I was locking up when the landline rang. Sharp, old-fashioned, impossible to ignore. "Hello?" A man's voice, smooth and low, curled into my ear. "Rebecca Lang? I collect debts. Yours is due." I laughed nervously. Wrong number, obviously. "You have the wrong person." "No," he whispered, almost tender. "I have the right one." I hung up fast, heart thumping. Told myself it was a prank. 20 minutes later, it rang again. This time, he listed dates and amounts. Jordan borrowed $30,000 in 2019, then $50,000 in 2021, poker debts, underground games in Chinatown. He never paid. My stomach turned cold. Jordan had told me he'd kicked the gambling years ago, before we met. He'd sworn it was over. I woke him. He went pale, admitted some old debts, said they were settled. We blocked the number, went back to bed. The calls kept coming, from different numbers, always the same silky voice, detailing losses, threats, interest piling up like snow. Then the shadows started. I'd catch movement outside the windows, tall figures standing just beyond the streetlight. Footsteps creaked on the stairs when we were both in the kitchen. Doors we'd closed stood open. Jordan said I was imagining it, but I saw the fear in his eyes too. That night, around 3 a.m., glass shattered downstairs. I froze in bed, heavy boots on hardwood, voices, low, muffled. Jordan leapt up, but they were faster. 3 masked men dragged him down the stairs while I hid in the walk-in closet, clutching the small safe where we kept cash and my grandmother's jewelry. They took him. My phone buzzed almost immediately. "Unknown number," I answered, whispering. The silky voice laughed softly. "Listen carefully, Rebecca." Then Jordan's scream, raw, animal, filled the line. Bones cracking, begging, the sound of something sharp cutting skin. "Follow the instructions," the voice said, "or he loses more than fingers." He sent GPS pins. abandoned warehouses by the harbor. I grabbed the safe, threw on shoes, and ran into the fog, heart pounding so hard I thought it would burst. The warehouse stank of rust and seawater. I followed the screams to a lit room in the back. Jordan was tied to a chair, blood pooling under him, one hand mangled. The masked men stood around him, but the man without a mask, the one holding the phone, turned and smiled. I knew that smile. Claire, Jordan's old friend from college, who'd texted him too often, who'd shown up drunk at our door last Christmas. She stepped forward, voice exactly the silky one from the calls. "Surprise, darling. The debt was fake. I hired the actors, all to get you here." Jordan looked up, eyes wide, shaking his head. "Becca, I didn't—" Claire laughed. "He did. We've been together for months, planning to cash in your pretty inheritance once you were gone." She raised a knife. I dropped the safe, grabbed a rusted pipe from the floor. We fought, messy, desperate. I broke her arm. One of the hired men cut Jordan's leg deep before running. Claire slashed my shoulder before I knocked her out, blood everywhere. Jordan lost 2 fingers. I lost part of my ear. We crawled out as sirens finally came. Someone had heard the screams. Police arrested Claire and the men. The debt was all invented, messages planted, calls recorded in her voice. Jordan swears he never planned my death. Says Claire twisted everything. Maybe he's telling the truth, maybe not. We sold the brownstone, moved far away. He flinches at every ring now. I check locks 10 times, but some nights, when fog rolls in thick and cold, my phone lights up. Unknown caller. I don't answer. Yet the voicemail is always waiting, that silky voice whispering, debts aren't paid until everyone bleeds. And I wonder whose blood will be next. Story 6. I sometimes dream about that blackout. The whole city dark, no hum from the fridge, no streetlights bleeding through the curtains. Just our little apartment lit by one dying candle, and the phone ringing like it had its own power. If I could go back, I'd let it ring forever. But I picked up, and the whisper crawled inside us all. We lived in a compact walk-up in New York's Koreatown, the part where Seoul feels closer than Manhattan. Me, Hyun, my wife Ji-yeon, our 6-month-old son Minjun, and my mother Halmoni, who'd come from Busan to help with the baby. It was the night before Christmas Eve, a citywide blackout from an ice storm. Candles flickered. We were laughing about how peaceful it felt without screens. Then the landline crackled and rang. Ji-yeon answered because she was closest. "Yoboseo?" A man's voice, wet and wheezing, answered in Korean. Slow, like every word hurt. "The whisper is spreading. Listen carefully. Fever first. Then you see them crawling. Then you beg to die." Ji-yeon frowned, said it was probably a wrong number, and hung up. We shrugged. Old phone, old building, maybe crossed wires. 10 minutes later, Halmoni gasped and clutched her chest. Her eyes rolled back. She started muttering the exact same words. "The whisper is spreading. Fever. Crawling." We thought stroke. Hyun checked her pulse, racing, skin burning hot. We wrapped her in blankets, but the phone rang again. And again. Each time the same wheezing voice, now describing what was happening to her in real time. Then our cells started blowing up. Texts from neighbors on every floor. "Did you get the call? My kid is burning up. They're seeing things." We peeked into the hallway. Doors were opening. People stumbling out, faces slick with sweat, eyes wide and glassy. One woman clawed at her own arms, screaming about bugs under her skin. A man down the hall banged on our door, growling like an animal. We barricaded inside, bolted the door, pushed the couch against it. Minjun wailed non-stop. Halmoni thrashed on the floor, foam at her mouth, whispering non-stop. Hyun's face went hard. He remembered the package that arrived yesterday. Unmarked envelope, no return address, just a fine white powder that spilled when Halmoni opened it. We'd thought it was a mistake. He grabbed his laptop, used the last of his phone battery to search. Hallucinogenic compound. Airborne. Triggered by suggestion. The calls weren't random, they were the activation. The voice was a bioterrorist, some lone maniac who'd mailed the powder to every apartment, then waited for the blackout to start the calls. The whisper planted the hallucinations, made people believe they were infested, burning, dying. Our building was turning into a madhouse. Screams echoed up the stairwell, scratching, bodies hitting walls. Min Jun's cries turned hoarse. His tiny forehead was hot. Ji-yeon sobbed, rocking him. I saw things too, shadows writhing under the wallpaper, fingers pushing through the ceiling. Ji-yeon looked at me, eyes fierce through tears. The roof. Cell signal is strongest there. We find him. We wrapped Min Jun to her chest, gave Halmoni water she couldn't swallow, and climbed the dark stairs. Every floor worse. Blood smears. People curled on landings, muttering about monsters. On the roof, wind whipped ice across our faces. A figure stood by the antenna, masked, headset on, phone in hand, broadcasting the whisper to the whole building. Ji-yeon charged first. I followed. We fought in the sleet. Fists, elbows, desperation. The mask came off. Just a man, thin, wild-eyed, smiling like he'd won. He stabbed Hyun in the side with something small and sharp before I pushed him over the ledge. He fell screaming into the dark, but the damage was done. Hyun collapsed, blood black in the moonlight, the poison already in him. Sirens finally came. Hazmat teams, quarantine. They said the compound was slow but fatal without immediate treatment. Hyun didn't make it to morning. Halmoni never woke up. Min Jun and Ji-yeon survived, but the nightmares didn't stop. Even now, years later, in a new city, new phones, my wife wakes screaming about things crawling inside her. Min Jun, barely old enough to talk back then, still covers his ears when any phone rings, and sometimes, on quiet winter nights, our new landline, just kept for emergencies, gives one single ring. We never answer, but we hear it anyway, that wet, wheezing voice, faint through the walls. The whisper is spreading. For more stories like this, share and subscribe, Goofy Horror.